go up to the page in your book, which is the next one that says staying tight, we're talking about getting down to exactly what the focus of this course is about. This involves everything we play. This involves the chording behind the singer. This involves playing the fills, creating the fills, stopping in the right places and getting to the right places. The middle line, this string of pearls right here, should look familiar. These are all the E chord positions, or they're the 1 chord positions, aren't they? So we might be at any spot playing in a song in the key of E, and we've just picked the key of E as an example. This is going to happen exactly like this in any other key, isn't it? We're just talking about the key of E. In any song in the key of E, we've got a 1. We're probably going to have a 4 chord. I mean, how many songs don't have a 4 chord in them, or an A? How many songs have a 5 chord in them? Well, all of them just about. I can't think of a chord that doesn't have, a song that wouldn't have a 5 chord in it. So when we're playing, we're not just thinking where we are. We're thinking 2 things. Either we know this song and we know what the next chord is, either because we're going to have to go there and play the chords behind the singer, or we're going to have to go to that next chord, and it's going to be where we play our fill. It's going to, one of these strings, either it's going to be a 4, we're going to start on one of these positions to play our melody, or start on one of these positions to play maybe the fill. If it's a 5 chord, it may be one of these. So if we're playing in the 1, we either know what the next chord is going to be because we need to, or we use our ears. If it's a song you've never played before, maybe you're playing with a band and you don't know this song, but you know they've told you it's in the key of E. Well, you're going to start, you may be anywhere in here. You never know. You're going to play one and then another. And how many songs have we done over the last few courses? And we see the average time span that a chord stays is about 2 measures. So we might be playing a measure of 1 there and a measure of the 1 there. Or we could be down here playing a measure of that 1 and then the next one. So we don't quite know where we might be, and the possibilities are endless. So if we're in the 1, we either hear the next chord coming, maybe a song you don't know, and all of a sudden you hear, oh, it's a 4. And if you're not sure, you learn. In due time, you learn that either you know the song, you know it's going to a 4 chord, or you hear it go to a 4 chord. If you happen to be playing 7, A, and B, and it goes to a 4 chord, well, this top string up here is the line of 4 chords. We've been playing them all this time. You need to see them in your mind while you're playing that 1, and you say, whoops, a 4 chord is coming. Well, what's the closest 4 chord you could play? Stay tight. The idea of running 5 frets is out of the question. Look where the 4 chord is. It's right there. Well, is that the only one? It's 1 fret away. It's very easy. You might run back to 5, and that's the normal reaction. That is not so much news as that one is. That is why we put the F lever on the guitar, so we can get from a 1 to a 4, or we could go to that 10 with a D lever. Again, a good reason to have the D lever. Both of these sound alike, so you have a choice. But which is the closest? Which would be the easiest? Well, 7A and B going to 8A and F. That might be where you might start your fill then, or end your fill. Well, what if we were in a 4 now? So we might play that 4 and maybe another 4, because the song will generally have 2 measures. Or we may have started that and played a fill using some of these positions, and we end up on 5. It's in the 4, and it's coming back to E or the 1. Well, what's the closest E? Is it necessarily, as it usually is demonstrated, a guy will be playing the 4, and all of a sudden he'll go to there because that's his first reaction. That's the first thing you ever learn to do. But is that tight? No, there's the 4. Look where you could go. And is that your only option? Well, maybe not. You might be playing the 4 chord there, and there's a 1. You can get back to there. Why use either one? Because you might want to squeeze the pedal there. You might want to hear the 8th string drop there. There's a reason to pick those 2, and you'll learn that with experience. The point is, if you're playing the 4 chord there, don't run back to there necessarily. I'm not saying never, but look, isn't that sweet that you can stay close, stay tight? Well, you might be playing the 4 chord up here. Well, the obvious choice back to the 1 might be there, but is that the only one? No, might be playing there. Stay within 3 frets. My goodness, there was a 1 chord, and that might be right where the fill that you need to play will be. The idea of jumping from 12A and B as a 4 back to there is 5 frets. I think that's a bit far. I don't think I would ever do that on purpose. That's a 5-fret move when I've got these choices here that are within 2 frets of there. Okay, let's say, we're playing the 1 chord here, and all of a sudden we either know that there's a 5 coming or that we hear it. All of a sudden they change, and we've never heard this song, but we know that's a 5. Look at the choices. The natural thing would be to go to 7, wouldn't it? I mean, that's what we've learned to do. That's our first impulse, because that's what we learned as first week students. But now we see, while we're playing the 7A and B, that's not necessarily true. We can use that 7 as a reference point, drop back 2 and hit that 5A. It's only 2 frets away. We're playing 7A and B, and we go to 5A. Oh, my goodness, is that all? We can go 1 fret up, and it sounds like a 5/7. Well, looky here. The 4 chord is an 8A and F, and it sounds like A if the band is playing A and if the bass note is A. But all of a sudden, let's say if the song was in a 4 chord and you were playing that, if it goes to a 5, you could easily just stay there and the band will make it sound like you move. So it will sound like a 5/7 chord. The bass line does that for you. The band does that for you. You can stay in one spot. Here you see it, all in one graphic explanation. This is what you want to be seeing while you're playing. If you're not doing that, let's say this is the first time you've looked through this tape, and you say, well, I just want to get the licks and phrases. I don't need to know all this thing. You're going to see real fast that won't work. This is all that works. No matter what chord you're in, whether it be the 1 or the 4 or the 5, you need to know where you are and the relationship of the others close to where you are. In other words, staying tight. Not just so you can get to the chords. At first, that's going to be a tough one, just getting to the chords. But the time's going to be coming when you're going to be playing a 1 chord, and all of a sudden the song goes to a 5, and you need to play a fill, a line of melody, a phrase. Well, that phrase could start anywhere in the 5, but if you're not looking at it like this, you may find yourself, well, you'll be playing the 1 here. And all of a sudden the lick you're looking for, or the one that the only one thing you can think of is to go all the way up there to 14A and B. That's silly. You could be right there, go to right there and start a phrase. You could be right there, go to right there and start a phrase. Start a phrase there. Stay tight. Stay within 1 or 2. So this pays off in many ways. And if you're not looking at it like this now, boy, you need to stop. This is where you need to learn your strings of where are all the 1s. And then while you're thinking the 1s, if it went to a 4 in any one of these, any place, can you stop? Could I say, if we were without this chart now, let's say you studied it, if you were playing 8A and F as a 4 chord, where's the closest 5 chords now? Could you say, well, yes, I see it, 7, 8A and F, 10A and F. Those are the closest one. Well, if we were playing a 1 chord on 3A and F, where is the closest 5 chord? It's very obvious, right there. Well, where's the closest 4 chord? If this song goes to a 4, 5, it's in a 1. It's going to a 5. So I'm playing 3A and F. The closest 5 chords would be back 1 fret with a 2A and B, or from 3A and F up to 5A. Can you spot it? Can you plan it that way? That's the goal. That's where we're going. There again, I can't do this for you. I can make you aware. This is the way everybody's thinking. This is the way everybody's planning their attack. And what if a song has an extra chord? How many songs have a 1, 4, and 5, and then maybe a minor chord or a 2 chord? It might have a 2 minor or a 2 major in it. That's going to create another line, another string of chords that mean maybe the 2 chord. So this is the easy part. This is not the hard part. This is simply every song has 1, 4, and 5. Learn to think 1, 4, and 5 like this. So maybe have another look at this chart. Look at each one and say to yourself, my goodness, if I was on 12 and it went to 4, what are my choices? If I was on 12 and it went to a 5, what are my choices? Look at them. All of these different choices. And in due time, you learn to make the choices, and you can actually hear, before you play it, what they're going to sound like. You can actually hear, before you play it, that I'm playing a 1 chord here, but I want to start in the 5 chord, and I'm going to work down through these, and that's going to be my fill. My goodness. That's what makes great players, deciding and thinking ahead of time. This is how my attack's going to go. And nothing is a surprise. Everything you play is well planned, and in the end, it sounds like it. And you can tell the difference in the players that you can watch them. They'll be playing the 1, it'll go to a 4, they'll scream all the way up here to 12A and B. Bad idea. They'll be playing the 1 and it goes to a 5 chord. They'll go from the 1 there down to 2A and B. 5 frets down when all these were available. Bad idea. So stay tight. That's the key to everything. It makes playing beautiful. It makes it simple. And it's the way the big boys are doing it. Let's go to the page, the very next one, which is working the pockets. We're talking about getting down to business here and building melody lines, building phrases, learning to think for ourselves and not necessarily play what we read in tab, or memorizing a lick. My goodness, we can take a lick and analyze it and make it anything we want. We can learn the lick as an example of how to use things, but we're talking about thinking chords and passing tones, and that's how we think everything. We obviously, the first thing we learned was chord positions, like this might be an E chord, and this might be an E chord. These are both 1 chords, or E's. We're playing in the key of E now, and the relative chords are 1, 4, and 5. Well, the passing tones, or the scale notes, or the notes that make playing beautiful, are not necessarily the notes that are the exact chord. And if you're one of those players that will play a lick and just stay on 7A and B and stomp the pedals, you can get something there, but it doesn't flow. That's not steel guitar. It doesn't flow left or right. There are no pedal squeezes that way with slides. You might be one of those that'll play on 12 and just stomp the pedals. And that's a good way to start, but it's no way to end. We look at it differently. This middle note, 8A and F, is not an E chord. It's a 4, isn't it? It's an A. Well, this is a passing tone. It's a relative 4. I've made the note for you. Any way you want to do it, any time you want to do it, you can go from an E through the A, and it's a step. That's all. It's a step passing to there. So you could take a little 3-note pocket like that. That's what we're talking about here, playing 7A and B, and seeing and knowing that A and F is a passing tone. It's like being on one side of a stream. This is one side of a river. This is the other side. We want to jump from one side to the other, but we want to get across it by using a little step in the stream. So this is a step that we don't want to stop on. We're trying to get from here to there, but the passing tone is that one. So you want to play around with this. Maybe play 7A and B. We're only playing strings 5 and 8, but this could work on any set of strings, by the way. We're using this as an example. Going from 7A and B, go to 8A and F, and then up, or backwards. 12, back to 8A and F, to 7A and B. This is a little 3-note pocket you can think. It's not going to be the end or the only way we want to play, but we're building our knowledge of how to put things together, how to think like a pro. So the idea is, in between any A and B pedal chord, it might not be E. It might not be an E like this, but notice it's a no pedal to an A and B. So we're talking about using a pocket that has 2 ends, the no pedal position and the 5 below, which is 7A and B, and the stepping stone in between, or the passing tone, and it comes out to be a scale note. We're learning scales here, the easy way, and the way you can always remember it. You could transpose this to almost any other chord. You could take this, if we wanted to play this pocket, pocket number 1, the A and B no pedal pocket. Well, it might not be E. Let's say we're playing, and it's a C chord. Well, C, like this, is on 8. C, like this, is on 3, A and B, isn't it? That's the 2 ends of the pocket. So this pocket could be played in C chord. We play C on 8, and no, we're going to set to 3A and B. Well, what's the passing tone now in the key of C? Notice it's 1 fret up with the A and the F lever. Well, you can learn it as a pattern, and it is a pattern, or you could say C has passing tones. C and F and G are the relative 1, 4, and 5. So this would be one of the relative chords. That's all. It's the 4 in this case. So it would be 8, down to 4A and F to 3A and B. And that's the way you want to look at it. We're not just learning E here. We're using E as an example. Learn to think pockets. And the most important thing, what makes your playing beautiful, is this passing tone. It adds sparkle. It's like if you're one of those players that only plays 7A and B because the band is playing in E, or only plays 12, and you're trying to make licks out of it, you've made vanilla cake. That's all. Not bad, tastes pretty good, but when you add this tone in it while the band's playing E and you pass through this, you don't stay long, you pass through, or you play it backwards. What you do is you take this chocolate cake, and vanilla cake, and put strawberry icing, chocolate icing, whatever. It makes it taste better. And what you get is the sound that you hear on record all the time. That's where Paul Franklin, John Huey, Emmons, Day, all of them are thinking scales like this. They're thinking in pockets. What are the passing tones between here and there? And that's the key to everything, is knowing how to get from one point in the stream, here's the two ends, and what's the passing tone in between. And it adds sparkle to everything you play. Let's go to the next pocket, which is the pocket number 2. Let's call this something. This is the A and B to 3A and F pocket. So between the A and B position for any chord, not necessarily just E, go from the A and B position down to the 3A and F position. There's a passing tone between them, which is 5A. Now you can think of this two ways. As it shows here, we're using 7A and B, and this passing tone is the 5/7. Well, you might think of it as the 5/7, but you might not remember it that way. This is a matter of going 7A and B, back 2 frets with the A pedal, and then back to 3A and F. Well, this could be 3A and F any direction. It's non-directional, isn't it? It could go 3A and F, up 2 frets with the A pedal, up to the A and B pedal position. This is a pattern and no more. And it's a lot easier when you're using this to transpose, let's say. We may not be talking about the key of E or the chord of E in this case. It might be the chord of A. Well, we take the chord of A with pedals down, and it has definite reference points. So A with the pedals down, this spot is going to be 12 A and B, and then this spot is going to be down to 8 A and F. So the passing tone between 12 A and B and 8 A and F is going to be 2 frets below 12 A and B, which will be 10 A. So this phrase could be 12 A and B, back to 10 A, to 8 A and F, and that would be the pocket in the chord of A. Well, the best way to learn it is practice, experience, time and task. So just play along with this. 7 A and B, back to 5A, and there again, this could be on any set of strings. Play this backwards and forwards, kind of get the sound in your head. If you play it on strings 5 and 8, it's going to have one melody sound. Well, if you play the same thing and you play it on strings 4 and 5, it's going to have another melody sound. Well, you might be one of those that likes to play 3-note chords, which I don't recommend, but if you're sitting around playing and you want to hear it, why not? Experiment. Maybe play this, 7A and B on strings 3, 4, and 5. Then back to 5A, strings 3, 4, and 5. Listen to this melody line, and then back to 3A and F. And it's going to make a different melody line every time because it puts you a different spot in the scale. And that's not important. Any group of strings is perfectly good. We use this quite a lot, so that's why I wrote it this way as an example. Remember, this is transposable. You can take this any chord you want, and it's a pocket, and it's building a scale. There again, we got one side of the stream, the other side of the stream, and there's the stepping stone between them. And it's always going to be the same one, so we're just thinking a pattern. Don't just learn the pattern. This has a reason. It's the 5/7. And we need this because you might be playing this little phrase down this way or up that way, and you need to stop coming from a 1 to a 5. You need to know there is the 5/7. And this could be a beautiful melody phrase or chords, either way you look at it. There again, while you're practicing this, this is not necessarily a one-way deal. This is not a one-way street, not necessarily a two-way street. You can play it 7/5/3 or 3/5/7, a descending little phrase or an ascending phrase. But it's not necessarily that you have to complete the process. You might go 7A and B in a different phrase. This might be the way you might construct a fill. 7A and B, back to 5A, back to 7A and B, down to 3A and F. That's a phrase. You might play 3A and F up to 5A, back to 3A and F, back to 5A, and up to 7A and B. And you've got a totally different phrase. As it's written, if you play left to right, it's a phrase, but it's always going to sound like that. If you play it right to left, that's a phrase, just backwards, but it's always going to sound like that. It has no order. It has no direction. It says, here are the places, invent something. And that's the end result. I'm hoping to get you to think like a pro, invent something, because you know these work, but they're not any little tab thing that you learned out of a book. Now you could look at a book and you can see these people are using these positions, mixing them up. And that's the key. We mix them up. And they have definite directions if you want them to have, but they're never set in stone. They're not written there just so that's the only way. It's to get you to think. Look what you got here. Let's go to the next pocket, which is pocket number 3. I call this the no pedal because we start with the no pedal to the A and the F pocket. It's the up 3 move. Well, that's how we learned the A and the F lever, wasn't it? We said no pedal is always in relation to up 3 to 15A and F. And there's a passing tone between the two. It's 12A and B. It's the 4 chord in this case. So this is not the only one. Obviously, some of you have already figured out there are other 1s, 4s, and 5s, but this is the simplest one, the most effective. So we're saying start on 12 because it's E, the no pedal position, and we're ultimately trying to get to 15A and F, but the passing tone between them is the A and the B pedal spot. So we're using the passing tone, comes out to be a 4 chord in this case. Well, that's a good way to think because we might want to stop on a 4, but really it comes out to be a pattern, doesn't it? It's nothing but 12, 12A and B, 15A and F, or backwards, 15A and F, back to 12A and B, to 12. And there again, remember how we're learning these things. These are not directional. We might go 12 to 12A and B, to 12, up to 15A and F, or 15A and F, back to 12A and B, back to 15A and F, back to 12 or back to 12A and B. There's a lot of ways. There's 10,000 licks or phrases in here. My goodness, it all depends on how you mix them up. The mixing up is what gives your playing that variety, and it'll be your style. You'll play things you've never seen written, or play things maybe you've never heard. You'll hear them. That's the trick, is to play these things enough on different strings. Play around with different string groups again. The idea is to play them enough, see them for what they are, but after you've played them enough, you'll know their sound. Not only that, when you hear these things on record or on CD or on television, when you hear anybody play, you'll instantly recognize the sound. They're doing that, they're going to there, they're going to there, and maybe back to there. That's the trick, is to play enough that you recognize it the next time you hear it. And that'll only come when you've done it 1,000 times. Right now you're sitting here looking and saying, wow, how will I remember all these pockets? By doing it. That's the only way. This is only the theory, and theory is useless if you can't put it in your head and into automatic reflexes. So in all of these pockets, we're talking about learning to play them first. That's the first step. And understanding why that passing tone is there. And the third step is, as you play them, you're teaching your ears what that sounds like, what that sounds like, what that sounds like in the middle, and in no time at all, you learn to recognize these phrases like you do words. Everybody learns new words here and there, and that's the way you learned to speak, wasn't it? By speaking just a few words at first, and hearing a few, and you didn't understand most of the other. It was all gibberish. Right now, that's true. This may be really a new language. It might as well be German to you. But as you speak it, and as you experiment with it, and more importantly, as you play along with it and play around with it with a rhythm track. That's the key. Always a rhythm track, and hear how that passing tone sounds while the band is playing E. How does that sound? And it's a stepping stone, and notice you don't want to stay there. You'll want to get onto there, or you'll be playing from there, and you'll play that. And you'll want to get onto there. So these things must resolve, and this is only the passing tone that it resolves from. But the trick is, do it, and do it. Change strings, listen, and pay attention when you play them. Don't forget to think. because each one of these has a name, doesn't it? That's an E, that's an A, that's an E, or that's a 1, that's a 4, and that's a 5. And if you lose that focus, then this becomes very uneventful. You'll play the same lick the same way every time. It's only by thinking and remembering, what am I playing here? At any time that you play, either in this little pattern or any of the others, they all have names. As you play them, call out the names mentally. Let's go to pocket number 4 now. This is really very much like the pocket number 1. We're still talking about the 7A and B spot, and that's the A and B pedal down position, and the 5 up spot, which is the no pedal spot. We've done this before. We said there was a passing tone between 12 and 7A and B, and if you look back at pocket number 1, it was 8A and F, just 1 fret up. Well, that was a 4 chord, but we know from past experience now that 10 with the A and the F lever, as well as 10 with the F lever, made a 5 and a 5/7. So they become players as well, and we use this all the time. I could have written this 7A and B to 8A and F to 10A and F to 12, and we do play things like this, but I'm trying to keep it simple so you'll experiment with this and get the sound of it and give you a chance to practice it without getting too confused. So, just like the others, play around with 7A and B, and then going up 3 to 10A and F, and up to 12, the no pedal, and be able to transpose it at the same time. Again, non-directional. It might be 12 to 10A and F to 7A and B. We've already seen this in Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain. That's why I played that in there. I gave you some phrases, some little licks, some exercises to play, and if you look back through all of these, the pockets, the 1 and the 2 and the 3, you'll see that's where I was getting those phrases. Again, play around with different strings, different ones like this, and then experiment. You could go 7A and B, 8A and F, add that other passing tone, then to here, and then to here. It all comes out to be melody lines, and this one in particular gives you 2 passing tones. Very convenient, and you might use them both, you might use only one. But there again, there are your choices. If you haven't fully understood everything we've been talking about in the pockets, and if you haven't taken the time to play them and understand and be able to see each pocket, then this little bit might be a little confusing. However, you might be one of those that likes to just go through the tape and watch and see what's about to happen. You'll see in a real quick hurry here that you want to go back and you want to learn these things because you need to know the pockets to understand what I'm about to say here. This is getting down to the real world of playing steel guitar, and it's not for beginners. It's not for the first 5-week student. You need to understand the pockets or this won't make a bit of sense to you. We can tie these pockets together. We can take the number 1 pocket and take the 3 notes that are in it, 7A and B and 8A and F and 12. And we can take the second pocket, which is 7A and B, down from 7A and B to 5A to 3A and F. So we can tie these two together and see them truly as 2 pockets, but make them as a tied together pocket as 1 and just in 2 parts. So literally we could say like this, we might start on 3A and F, go up to 5A to 7A and B, then go from 7A and B on up to 8A and F to 12. So now we have a pocket with more notes in it, that's all. We're still using the same 2 pockets, but put them right in a row. So we might play 3A and F up to 5A, 7A and B, on up to, from 7A and B to 8A and F to 12, and it makes an ascending line. Well, you might try it backwards. Make it from 12 back to 8A and F, then to 7A and B, on down to 5A and 3A and F. And all of a sudden, we've got a long string of notes with more notes in it than we had before. That's why I said, if you don't understand the pockets, then this might be more than you want to handle. There again, this is how we construct melody lines and phrases. We tie these 2 pockets, number 1 and number 2, and we see that there's the 2 passing tones, and here's the 2 root positions. These are the steps, the root steps we start with, and we're just using the passing tones, but it makes a continuous line, 3, 5, 7, 8, on up to 12. And of course there's no order. You can play them backwards. The whole idea is this is where you're going to get some beautiful lines. Well, we can tie pocket number 4, which is really coming from maybe 7A and B, up to 10A and F, or 8A and F, as we said before, up there. There it is. So we could put that one in there. We could go 7A and B, 8A and F, 10A and F, to 12, and then take up this other pocket, 12A and B, on up to 15A and F, or do it just the reverse. 15A and F, back to 12A and B, then to 12, on down to 10A and F, to 7A and B, and you've got whole new melody lines. There again, the melody is going to change with what string group you choose. We only wrote 5 and 8. It's up to you to get on strings 4 and 5. Listen to how this string of notes sounds going on that. Get on strings maybe 3, 4, and 5. Listen to how it sounds. You're going to get a different melody, because every time you change strings, you're in a different place in the scale. Doesn't change anything. The pattern stays the same. So the trick is to learn to tie or string all of these things together. Maybe start on 3A and F. And what you're going to have when you get done is a scale, believe it or not. It's very, very simple. It's going to go 3A and F to 5A, 7A and B. What comes next? 8A and F. Then maybe 10A and F. And then on to 12. Then on to 12A and B to 15A and F. Now I could have written this different and wrote it that way, but I have. Later on in the book, you're going to see it. It's going to come out to be E scale. So E scale, tied in pockets, the way we play it, is going to be 3AF, 5A, 7A and B, 8A and F, and the next spot in that pocket down here is 10A and F to 12, or on to 12A and B, then on up to really 14A and B, because isn't 14, didn't write it here, but let's talk about it now. We're not beginners anymore. Isn't that 14A and B a 5 chord? Isn't the 1, the 12th fret, the 4, 12A and B, and 14A and B is a 5. So really, pocket number 3 could look totally different. It could be 12, 12A and B, 14A and B, then to 15A and F. And that you would have truly the E scale in harmony the way it's supposed to be. So this is tricky. That's why you don't find this bit of information at the first of this course. This is for people who know everything we've been doing up to now. It can't make sense to you. There again, if you're looking at this tape the first time and you're saying, wow, I'll never get there. Oh, yes, you will. If you'll go back and do your homework, if you do the exercises, if you learn pocket number 1, learn to use it. If you learn pocket number 2, if you learn number 3, now add 14A and B in it, remember? And if you learn pocket number 4 with the A and F in it, or pocket number 1 with the 10A and F in it, you're going to have this. I've snuck up on you. I've come in the back door and I've said, look, here's what E scale looks like, but I haven't said scale. That's a nasty word. I've said, here's some wonderful licks, and you can use them in pieces, which is the way we do it, isn't it? We don't play full, whole scales when we play melody lines. We play in pieces, and we think in pieces. Nobody in the world is that brilliant. Nobody can see the whole scale or wants to see it all at one time. We see it in little 3-steppers like this, a little 3-stepper like that, a little 3-stepper like that, a little 3-stepper like that, because no matter where we are, we're just right where we are, and we're not thinking about from here way down here that much. But you can, with practice, learn the automatic reflex of it. You can learn to get through all of these all in one sweep. And when you're done, you'll have the scale, but nobody will know it was a scale. They'll say, that was magnificent. How did you figure out that melody? Go to the next page there where it says learn the scale. We're down to doing that anyway. Let's make it music. This is not music theory anymore. We're talking about learning to play steel guitar the way it was born to be played. The top line, we're just going to use strings 5 and 8 for a minute. 5 and 8 says strings 3 and F. That's an E chord. Now you can learn this as a pattern, or you can learn it and give these notes names. And I prefer you learn the names first, but then it becomes a pattern. But never forget what the names are, that's all. So we start, again, this is stringing those pockets together. 3A and F, 5A, 7A or 7A and B, 8A and F, 10A and F, 12A and B, 14A and B, 15A and F. Now, you can't just play melodies going this way. Melodies go down. Melodies go up and then down. Melodies go down and then up. So we need to practice the scale both ways. First, take some time. Stop right here and get this automatic reflex. This is very physical, is it not? You're learning to move your feet and your knees all in just the right chorus, as we might say. Everything's got to come together. So take your time there and practice the mechanical movements, the physical movements. Again, this is an Olympic event. And if you're kind of new at the F lever, you don't like going out from your A pedal to your F lever because you've got to kick your foot out and your knee out. And sometimes that's uncomfortable. And people don't realize you can adjust that F lever where it's right there. It has an adjustment screw right up underneath, right in there, where you can actually kick it in a little or you can kick it out a little bit. Make it fit your body. And if you have to raise the A pedal a little to make this easy, then do that too. Those guitars are built so you can do that. They all have adjustments on them. So make it fit you like a glove. It's your guitar. Make it fit you. Now, we practice this scale. Practice getting through it nice and slow with vibrato on it, because that's the way we're going to play melodies. 8A and F, 10A and F, 12A and B, 14A and B, 15A and F. Now, practice it down because it's more difficult going down. As you go down, your fingers are in the way. You can't see the frets, so you have to practice the distance. So it's 15A and F, 14A and B, 12A and B, 10A and F, 8A and F, 8 with the B, or just the A or A and B, either one, 5A, 3A and F. Now, this can be fun or it can be murder. A lot of people have had music lessons and they all teach you practice your scales, but they make no sense, do they? And it's no fun. My goodness, when you play this, that's all you're going to get. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and I hate it. But that's not what it is at all. This is the music. This is the only music there is. We can practice this along with track number 2. And I've actually built you a nice chord progression that you can practice the scale with, and it lets you learn in reality the way scales work. And we're going to use it a lot of ways. This is going to change the way you see everything on your steel from now on. So take the time. Let's do this exercise. Because if you don't, you may never learn the scale. You may give it up and you'll be back to playing your licks on one fret. And you don't want to do that anymore. You've come this far. Let's stick it out. So cue up track number 2 on your audio tape. And listen, it's going to have a 2-measure tick or drum beat. And it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, tick, tick. And then I'm going to give you a measure for each one of these. A measure of 3A and F. A measure of 5A. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on till we get to the top. And then it'll rest a whole measure. So you're going to get a chance to practice the scale. Genius, isn't it? You're going to get a chance to play the scale very slowly. You can read the tab if you want to, but as quickly as you can, turn on this track and play along without looking. See, can I remember every position? And as you play them, can you say 3A and F is a 1 or an E? 5A was a 5/7 or B7. 7A and B is an E or a 1. 8A and F is a 4. 10A and F is a 5. 12A and B is a 4. 14A and B is a 5. And 15A and F is a 1. So we've built a scale. Scale has nothing to do with C, D, E, F, A, G, B, C. Never said that, did I? I never said these are notes. I said they're chords. It has nothing to do with lining up sharps and flats. It has to do with, it's a pattern first, but the whole scale, if you'll look at it, every one of these notes is a 1 or a 4 or a 5. And that's how we can look at the scale. It makes it a lot easier. You don't have to remember every scale in the world. Once you learn this pattern of the notes, they're all going to look like that. We're just going to move them around the fretboard. So we're learning E scale, but in the process, we're learning every scale in the whole world. And amazing how it may work here in a little bit. But this can be fun. We're going to take the track. There again, it's going to start, and it's going to be like a verse. It's going to go one measure, 4 beats. You got lots of time to play, to think, to name the positions. And when you get to the top, it's going to give you a chance to rest a minute, 4 beats. And then it's going to go down, so you have to practice 4 beats on each one. So you got 4 beats on each one going up, 4 beats on each one going down. And then look out. The second time it happens, it's going to go in half time. It's going to be 2 beats. So it's going to be, instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Because that's the way you're probably going to end up playing it when you start working out your licks, when you start working out the melodies. So, this whole exercise, track number 2, is one verse of very slow, 4 beats at a time. Then look out, you have to think quicker. One verse of only half of that time, 2 beats on each one. But then if you make a complete fool of yourself, I gave you a chance to recover. It's going to come back to another verse of very slow, so you can look at it again, up and down. Then it'll go half time, 2 beats. And it's going to go through the scale 3 or 4 times here. Let's play it to give you an idea. This is what you want to learn to do. Go. Go down. Here we go, faster. Slow. Back down. Quicker now. Down. Slow. Quick now. tricky, isn't it? It's a lot more than you think, and you're going to see a lot more of it as we go along here. Remember one thing, we've got two versions, as you saw. I played strings 5 and 8, and then I thought, well, if it could be done on strings 5 and 8, then I can practice it on strings 4 and 5, and that's what you see in the second line on that page. Sounds totally different when I play it on strings 4 and 5, does it not? Well, that's what we need to do, learn how it looks, how it sounds. It's going to be every melody you ever saw in your life, and you're going to love it. Go to the next page there, which is about the scales as well. Notice the top line is exactly what we just did, the A and the F scale from top to bottom. That was wonderful. Now you're learning what the A and the F lever's for. I want you to look at the bottom line. We can play the same scale, the same sound, and for a definite reason, using the D lever. You don't see any A and Fs in there at all. So we need to see the scale both ways. We have two kinds. We have the A and the F, and then the D lever version. So it's going to sound identical, but it's physically different, and it'll actually play different, even though the notes are the same, because of the physical moves and the way the strings pull. We want to know both of these scales, and we can do this along with a rhythm track the same way. We can start with the D lever, 5D, and then come off and go to the A pedal, 5A, 7A and B. Now instead of going to 8A and F, we go to 10 with the D lever, on to 12 with the D lever, 12A and B, 14A and B, and instead of going to 15A and F, there is the same E note up there, 17D. Now, we do this for a purpose. When we play melodies from watching great players, all kinds of players over 35 years, I see players playing melody lines using these scales, both of them, and they mix them up. You'll see it done everywhere in the world. But here's the practice for getting the idea of how to mix it up yourself. And because of the phrasing is why we mix it up. We usually play lines, ascending lines, phrases. That might be an ascending phrase. I'm really mixing up the scale, and now it's not the scale, it's a song. That might be a lick that I've created because I know this scale. Notice I used all A and F going up because I was going up and it was easier. Then we notice that people that do descending lines or phrases, hate to call them scales because it gives you a shudder, doesn't it? But usually when we come down, we'll come down and use the D lever. So it might be, or, and when it's coming back up, go to the A and the F. So we want to practice this the way we might really use it. We want to practice the way we play. So let's practice the scale along with the track, and when it's going up, we want to use A and F scale, the top line. When it's going down, let's use the bottom line. Let's go the 17D. So read the bottom line backwards, that's all. Now the D lever, 12D, 10D, 7A and B, 5A, and then end on the 5 with the D lever. So literally we have two scales for a very good reason. The way to learn it is to practice it, and you learn that there are moves that we're practicing the moves, the A to Fs, the D lever by itself. We're going to get the same sound, that's true. And we're not saying that everything you'll always play will use the D lever coming down. Never said that. I said we mix it up, and it's because it makes it easy, that's all. Here we go. Here's what you want to do along with the track using both of these scales. Up with A and F. Here we go. All A and F. Now the bottom line backwards. D levers here. Strings, A and F. lever, A and F scale. Backwards using the very physical. Now we go quicker. D lever. Guess what I'm doing? And backwards. Up with the D lever. Down A and F. Boy, that's a lot of work, and you're not going to do that just overnight. The trick is to see them all before you play them and then be able to deliver it. That's the key, to deliver it. And when you play along with a rhythm track like this and improvise, I was improvising, and we've got one coming that's a real killer. If you can't do this one yet, you'll have a fit with that one.